Are we ready in the back? Okay. Where did Lucy go?
She's going down.
Oh, okay.
Chair, but she's going down.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the meeting of the Golden Rain Foundation. This meeting will please come to order. Please turn off your cell phones or turn them to vibrate at this time. If you feel the need to use your phone or answer a call, please step outside the room so those around you are not disturbed. During this meeting, I ask all shareholders and directors be considerate and respectful while making comments during the course of the meeting. We are privileged today to have Mike Gerardo to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Mike, could you step to this podium, please? Thank you.
There you dance. Right. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Mike, if you would stay right there, please. This is where you get to hear some nice words about you and how thankful we are you're a part of this community. Mike and his team from MJ Gerardo have provided GRF and the mutuals with excellent ethical and professional service since 2010, when his company was first approved as a Leisure World contractor. They know every inch of GRS trust property as well as all mutuals through the many projects they have handled. Sidewalk repairs, street paving, slurry, concrete, sewer repairs, in addition to all the amenity improvement projects. Mike's team is also available at a moment's notice for emergencies. He and his team have worked more than one weekend or middle of the night to repair a broken sewer. His most recent project is, of course, our spectacular aquatic center. Many thanks to you, Mike, and to your team for your enormous contributions to this beautiful facility. The project faced enormous challenges, as you know better than anyone. It is hard to tell who is happier, you or Mark, that the pool is completed and the ribbon cutting ceremony is behind us. I had to change that because I was hoping the pool would be open today, but it's not yet. A quote from Mark Weaver, Facilities Director, about you. It's hard to find a contractor that is truthful, and we certainly have that in Mike. Mike, it is our pleasure to recognize your contribution to making our community a safe and beautiful place to live. And Mark has a plaque that he's going to give you. And on that plaque, if I can bring my photos up, it says, in recognition, Mike Gerardo and the MJ Gerardo team, with gratitude from the Golden Rain Foundation for years of dedication and excellent service to the Leisure World Seal Beach community. Thank you very much, Mike. We're going to have roll call. I don't see any directors on Zoom, so no need to unmute. Tia, would you please take roll, or Paula, would you please take roll call?
Thank you. Leah Parati.
Here.
Donna Gamble.
Here.
Paul Pratt.
Here.
Paula Snowden. Sandy Geffner.
Here.
Marcia Gerber.
Here.
William Thompson.
Here.
Susan Hopewell.
Here.
Lucy Adlisser.
Here.
Lawrence Slutsky.
Here.
Tony Dodaro.
Here.
Carol Levine.
Here.
Bill Mandeville.
Here.
Carol Dalmacy. Here. Lee Melody.
Here.
Phil Friedman.
Here.
Janet Isom. Here. Nick Massetti.
I'm here.
Madam President, I would like to announce that you have a full board.
Thank you. The GRF Board met in executive session of the board on May 6th and May 19th. If there are any grammatical, punctuation, or non-substantive changes to the governing documents presented at today's meeting, please contact the executive coordinator after the meeting. If there are any substantive changes, we will move to refer the governing document back to the originating committee. By substantive changes, I mean a change that is of major importance to the procedure or rule and changes its meaning. Today, we're doing a little something different with the service awards. The in-person service awards and staff commendations will resume in July. But I would like to acknowledge those who celebrated another year with us in this in 2022. In January, Jerry Anistel, building inspector, celebrated 30 years. In February, Larry Norlander, Security Services Manager, celebrated 10 years. Also in February, Karen Moore, Physical Property Administrative Assistant, celebrated 5 years. In March of this year, Nicholas Paoletti, who is a bus driver in Leisure World, celebrated 10 years. In April of this year, Leanne Dillman, our Human Resources Director, celebrated 5 years. And Victor Rodriguez Lopez, building inspector for physical property, celebrated 5 years. In May, Javier Gutierrez, electrician service maintenance, is celebrating 20 years, and Jamie Morales Soto, general maintenance utility, is also celebrating 5 years this year. It's an honor to recognize these employees' dedication and service to our community, and we are very privileged to have all of them as on the GRF team. Next is our update from our 5th District and Council Member person, Sandra Masa-Levitt.
Good morning, everyone. I thought I'd wear my city council beanie today because I only have a few more months of being on the city council. So if anybody wants to ask me if I'm happy or not, you may, and the answer will be yes. It's been an interesting almost 8 years, and I'm kind of glad it's over. Last weekend, many of you may have known that the Tennis and Pickleball Center had a event, and
Excuse me, can you speak into the microphone just a little bit more?
Sure. We had an event over the weekend, and it was very well attended. Hundreds of people were there, and I'm hoping that some of the pickleball people from Leisure World were there as well. The tennis players that we have, I hope that they use the tennis center. It will be in the throes of a remodel sometime next year, and I'm hoping that the worst of the facilities that are really embarrassing will turn out much better, and it will be a really fine facility when everything is remodeled and done. And I'm glad that we've been able to provide another large facility for pickleball players, because we all know how that's increasing in playership. The city is undertaking its annual budget for next year, and as in previous years, there's nothing good to say. Unfortunately, we are not like the state. We have no surplus. Right now, the draft budget is red, and we will be doing everything we can to get it black. And it's going to be a tough job. COVID, of course, didn't help anything. We will be getting some money, though, from the state. We'll be getting about $2.5 million, out of the $5 million or so, a little more than $5 million that the city was going to be reimbursed for some of its COVID expenses. We've received half, and it's all gone out to the business community, and the city kept none of it. We get another $2.5 million somewhere, sometime in our lifetime, maybe. And we'll be spending that on city stuff and things that need to be repaired, replaced. So that'll be coming up. Last night at the meeting, the city council meeting, we went over the water conservation plan that the city has in place. We hope that we don't have to use it. Leisure World generally is pretty good about conserving water, at least they have in the past. Right now, I'm not so sure, I don't know what the numbers are, but I think we're all going to need to make some real extra effort to conserve water this year, and because it's going to be a really strategic shortage, and we're all going to suffer. We also adopted a plan to reinstate the city's animal control department. In 05 or 06, the city eliminated its own animal control and went to the city of Long Beach and contracted. Well, you know, some years later, we see that the contract is not working as well as it was or could be, and it's becoming extraordinarily expensive to continue with Long Beach. We went out for bids to other cities that have animal control facilities that we could contract with, and they were equally as expensive. So we decided that maybe we should just rethink this and develop our own again. The first year, of course, the initial costs are higher, about $300,000, but after that, it's about $250,000 a year. After that, that's $250,000. And we will be hiring 2 extra community service officers that will be cross-trained. We have 7 CSOs, they're called. 7 CSOs that do parking tickets and things like that. They will be cross-trained into being animal service so that we will have a broad availability of staff to be able to take on this undertaking. The problem will be getting the vehicle that the animals have to go in. Evidently, everything's on back order, we know. Cities are waiting a full year to get a utility truck, so I anticipate that will be an issue, but the police department, who will be running this operation, seems to think they can jerry-rig one of their pickups and make it work until we get an official animal vehicle. And just kind of some bad news. OCTA is at it again. And I know there will be an article in the paper about the closure of Northgate Road once again. Evidently, when they built the sewer line last time, it didn't connect to the other end. So they have to build a bypass, and then they have to rebuild the sewer line so it'll connect at the other end. That's a good idea. So it's going to be months that Northgate Road will be closed. And Ruth has an article in tomorrow's newspaper, as I understand it, that will explain it and give you the whole timeline. And I'm leaving you on that thought. Think of OCTA and wish them well because they need it.
that it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mark is actually going to give an update on
Oh, good.
Northgate Road.
Good. Much
It
better
is
than
going to
I
be
can.
closed for a while. I think our update says is more weeks than months.
Oh.
That it's like a month and a half or something like that, or 2 months? Yeah. Why don't you give that update now?
So I can do that now. We've been notified by the city that June 5th to August 5th, Northgate Road will be closed. We will have to allow Frontier back into the community. That's the only way they have out. So we're going to work with them on getting them clickers for the gate. And we're working with Vector on his staffing issues down there. So, like Ms. Masalavat said, there will be something in the paper. I'm not sure if it's tomorrow or not, but,
Oh. Is it tomorrow? Next week.
so June 2nd, it'll be in the paper.
Thank you. And thank you, Sandra. Do you have more of an update for us?
No, but I think Paula has a question.
Ms. Snowden?
The mosquitoes, just asking.
I can't hear you with...
No mosquitoes? I just want to validate
I
that.
forgot about my mosquitoes. How could I? They do anticipate a normal year this year. So it's normal if you don't get a bite. It's excessive if you do get a bite. So watch the water, the standing water. It's the same story every time. It's so important. And if you know people out in the real world out there outside the gates that have a green swimming pool, you might want to call mosquito control, and they'll come out. They'll come out that day and they'll treat that pool. They don't take prisoners. They just do it. And it's really important to get a handle on that, because that stuff is just transmitting disease, and we don't need that. Okay? Any other questions?
Thank you. Now it is time for shareholder comments, and in accordance with applicable sections of the Civil Code and Policy 5610, Foundation members may provide comments to the board members, but they must register their requests in advance of the meeting by completing the yellow card in the lobby. In order to adhere to the Center of Disease Control state and local orders and guidelines, comment cards, and notification of a central email address to send comments or questions was published in the Leisure World Weekly last week. We have received 2 emails, and we have 1 comment card for today. We'll do the emails first, and then I'll go to the comment cards, and Ms. Snowden you'll have 4 minutes to speak, and Ms. Snowden will hold up signs letting you know how much time is left. The first email is from Linda Herman, and it is about flyers, billboards, and digital boards. This is a topic I'm not really passionate about. However, last night I worked in Laguna Woods. I took a picture of their way to deal with club advertisement. You can do whatever you like with this information. I have never seen digital billboards there. I do find standing in front of a TV monitor for 10 to 20 minutes annoying. Picking up a flyer or looking at postings on a billboard, she may mean bulletin board, is better use of my time. I did not investigate who produces the flyers in Laguna. I do find myself looking through them for things of interest. Our Clubhouse 6 would be a good location. I suppose all the clubhouses would have a location for flyers. This is just another option. It does not affect me one way or the other. A list of what is going on each day in each clubhouse might be helpful. That could be done on the digital billboards. And she provided a picture of and I'm going to send this. I'm not sure if this would be recreation, but I would send it to that committee for consideration in July when meetings start again. The second one is from Sherry Wells. I want to sincerely thank you for the time and effort each of you contribute to making our community a better place to live. I also would like to thank you for spending a moment to see that the pedestrian gate at St. Andrews is replaced. To briefly update you, it has been broken for almost 5 months. We were told it was going to be resolved in 10 days on March 2nd and April 6th, but nothing has been resolved. Could you please follow up in a way that will lead to a solution? I think you agree that it is not good having a broken gate for 5 months at the St. Andrews entrance to Leisure World. I am asking on behalf of the residents who are not taking the time to contact you regarding this important matter. They deserve the safety and security that a repaired, functioning gate will provide. I had thought that this had been repaired and learned this morning that it had not. Mark is going to give us an update now and our solution.
Sure. So we have had problems with the vendor honoring their warranty on this gate. We've repetitively set up appointment times for them to come out and make the repairs, and each and every time they failed. So we, this week, received a cost from another company to replace the actuator and get that gate working. And we'll contact that contractor this week and schedule that time and get the replacements done.
If we need to expedite this, so if this is something that you could bring to executive session on Friday so
Do
that
that.
the board could review it and approve it so that we can get this done before, and then the next meeting will ratify that, or that vote so that it's public.
We can do that.
But we need to, they've waited far, far too long. And what is our solution for the vendor who has not honored his warranty?
It could be small claims court, definitely a claim on his contractor's state license with the California Contractor State License Board, and we'll also present him with a
Okay.
bill.
And would you please speak to that when we discuss this on
Certainly.
Friday? Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
The comment card that we have is from John Havlick, Mutual 12. John, would you please? He's going to speak on governance improvements.
Hi, John Levitt, Mutual 12, Apartment 8C. It's the end of the year, traditionally a time to reflect on both the accomplishments and the problems. I'd like to focus on just the accomplishments, one in particular. In years past, the agenda would be published, residents would respond, but because their comments were received after the agenda was published, their comments, their concerns were put off till the next month's meeting. By then, of course, the board had already dealt with the issue. This is how things have always been in our town. Last year, in contrast, residents who bothered to respond to an issue that was before the board found that after the residents' comments part of the meeting, that their emails would be read to the community. Suddenly, residents were being brought into the conversation on governance instead of being blocked out by rules, procedures, and protocols. What a concept. So thank you, Ms. Hopewell. What a concept. It's a true innovation in governance, and it has been very much appreciated. Finally, to the board as a whole, thank you for your time and effort. I know that it is very challenging to listen to nonstop criticism, but it's very necessary. Again, thank you all.
Thank you, John. The next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. We use a consent agenda format to increase the efficiencies of our board meeting. We have grouped together agenda topics that are routine and recurring and Board Quorum Committee meeting minutes. In order to approve them with one action, I will ask board members if anyone wants to discuss any of the items listed on the consent agenda. If it is determined that any item requires discussion, it will be removed from the consent portion and addressed individually. If any item is removed, I will read aloud the remaining consent items and move that the consent agenda be adopted. The committee board meeting minutes for the month of April 2022. Minutes of the Recreation Committee meeting of April 4th, minutes of the Physical Property Committee meeting of April 6th, minutes of the GRF Administration Committee meeting of April 7th, minutes of the Communication IT Committee meeting of April 14th, and minutes of the Finance Committee meeting of April 18th. Minutes of the April 26, 2022 GRF Board meeting, the GRF Board Report dated May 24th, acceptance of the capital funds investment purchase, acceptance of the interim financial statements, April 2022. Are there any amendments or requests to remove an item? I see no lights. The consent agenda is approved as presented. After the corporate secretary has signed the GRF board minutes and the consent calendar, they will be posted on the website. Before we go to ad hoc reports, I forgot something. Mark, would you please give the board and the community an update on the pool?
Sure,
I know
it's getting close. Okay,
there's no tomatoes to be thrown here, anyone.
that's a good thing. Okay, so we were scheduled to have an inspection this morning that has been put off until Thursday through the health department. So Thursday morning we'll be having that, hopefully Thursday morning we'll be having that inspection. Hopefully there won't be any corrections. If there's no corrections, it's a very good possibility we could open up this weekend. Gas meters going in tomorrow, and there's small, tiny pickup work going on right now. So that's where we're at.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Ms. Gamble?
I just have a little question. I've gone by the pool area quite often, and the new equipment room always seems to have a puddle of water there. And so I'm just curious, in light of the mosquito issue and that little puddle of water, is there a way to abet that as being a
That won't be-
habitat? I'm just
yeah,
curious.
That won't be there long. When we received the filters from Australia, one of them didn't have a gasket. We had to make a gasket. So the gasket's coming. Don't have a date yet, but it's in operation, but there is a small leak there. That'll be taken care of.
Thank you very much. I know your report, you would have preferred a different report, but hopefully Thursday, the final inspection will pass. Okay, now it's time for ad hoc committee reports. I'd like to call on Mr. Massetti, Chair of the Bulk Cable Ad Hoc Committee established at the February 22nd, 2022 GRF Board meeting, who will provide a final report.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Wrong one.
My mic on?
No,
Says Mike.
the other one.
Hello, testing 1, 2, 3.
Try the other mic.
Hello, testing 3, 4, 5.
Thank you.
Very good, okay. Since the last board meeting, the Bulk TV Internet Ad Hoc Committee met in a non-public working party sessions with representatives from Interact Solutions and Spectrum on May 3rd and May 10th respectively to refine our mutual understandings of their draft proposals. Those were the remaining 2 potential providers of the 5 that submitted draft proposals. Following those meetings, final draft proposals were received from the 5 potential providers. The committee compiled all the data and prepared a report, which was reviewed at an executive session of the Golden Moon Foundation Board on May 12th. At that time, the Golden Moon Foundation Board approved that the information be shared preliminarily with the presidents of the mutuals who attended the roundtable on May 20th. A comprehensive report will be made
to the presidents at their President's Council meeting on June 2nd. At this time, I'd like to state that the ad hoc committee, which the board established on January 25th, has met its goal of reporting results to the board at this, its May meeting. And therefore, I would like to acknowledge the work done well by committee members Larry Slutsky, Carol Levine, Lee Melody, and Paula Snowden. I'd like to especially thank Mr. Melody for hosting the site visit by one of the providers. I now request that the board retire the ad hoc committee today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Massetti. I move to accept the Bulk Cable Ad Hoc Committee's final report and formally recognize the dissolution of the committee. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Mandeville. Again, the motion is to accept the Bulk Cable Ad Hoc Committee's final report and formally recognize the dissolution of the committee. Do any members wish to speak on this matter? Mr. Geffner?
Yeah, will we be putting something in the paper to remind people that their cable agreement, if they have superwire?
There's an article scheduled for, I think, June 2nd.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? May we have a roll call vote, please? Oh, we don't need a roll call vote. Oh, yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Mrs. Prati?
Yes.
Ms. Gamble?
Yes.
Mr. Pratt?
Yes.
Ms. Snowden?
Yes.
Mr. Geffner?
Yes.
Ms. Gerber?
Yes.
Excuse me. Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Hopewell?
Yes.
Mrs. Ablisser?
Yes.
Mr. Slutsky?
Yes.
Mr. Dodaro?
Yes.
Ms. Levine?
Yes.
Mr. Mandeville?
Yes.
Mrs. Domacy?
Yes.
Mr. Melody?
Yes.
Mr. Friedman?
Yes.
Ms. Isom?
Yes.
And Mr. Massetti?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Massetti, and to your entire committee for a job well done. I heard the report at the roundtable, and when you presented it to the board in executive session, and you did an excellent job of some information by the mutual presidents tasked with researching and summarizing information on cable services to present back to President's Council, which will be happening on June 2nd. Thank you. Ms. Domacy, Chair of Governing Document Ad Hoc Committee, will provide a report.
We started looking this month at bylaws. The three of us are just starting to look through them. They've never been updated in the 60 years they've been in existence. So that, I think, is the next project of the Governing Documents Committee, but it's just really basic at the beginning right now.
Thank you. Ms. Isom is Chair of Strategic Planning Ad Hoc Committee and the Website Redesign Ad Hoc, and will provide reports for each of these committees.
Good morning, everyone. The Strategic Planning Ad Hoc Committee has worked diligently to identify projects to include in our community strategic plan. The goal was to prioritize these projects to decide which ones would be added to our reserve study so we could begin funding. And this has been a very interesting year, and we have made progress on that. We've added some items specifically to the reserve study. Mr. Weaver is including those and getting them ready for they can go into the current budgetary process. And we have concluded our mission for the year. The Website Redesign Ad Hoc Committee has invested untold number of hours towards launching a new, much improved website. While our vendor Storm Drain has presented us with a prototype design, which was resident on their server for testing, upon migrating this new website to our server for testing, the design reverted to an earlier version. We are currently in discussion with Storm Drain seeking their proposed solution to this issue. And hopefully we'll have more information at the next board meeting in July.
Yes. No, it's not going to be, she should email it to the board members.
I'll email it now.
My apologies, we have a little item we needed to take care of. Thank you very much for your report. We have an emergency item to add to the agenda, and this is what we were just discussing. It was supposed to be printed out and handed to the board. It is now going to be emailed to the board, and to, I know some of you don't have access to viewing it, so we're getting Karina to email it. So let me just read about it. The emergency action, immediate action item is requested to add to the May 24th, 2022 GRF Board agenda. The action item under General AII 401K plan eligibility. Board action is requested under the provisions of Civil Code 4930D. The basis for the emergency immediate action is that on May 19th, 2022, the 401K Investment Committee reviewed, discussed, and unanimously approved enriching the current 401K plan in an effort to boost employees' retirement security and improve employee retention. If approved, the completed paperwork is due by the end of this month for a July start date. I move to add the emergency item 401K plan eligibility to the board agenda. Is there a second for this motion? Ms. Snowden seconds the motion. Again, the motion is to add the emergency item 401K plan eligibility to the board agenda. Do any members wish to speak on this matter? And before I call on anybody, I know that Leanne Dillman is on Zoom. Perhaps it would be faster if you could email your action item to the entire board. Do any members wish to speak on this emergency item? Mr. People have, it's Ms. Isom. You guys are really challenging me on my last business meeting.
I apologize.
Sitting in different seats here.
I just wanted to say that we spent quite a bit of time looking at the 401K plan as it stands now, and our goal was to hopefully get more contribution from GRF, but specifically to get additional participation from our employees. So partly it is a retention, but partly it also is a case where we want to offer our employees the opportunity to put more money away for their retirement, and also offer eligibility earlier to new employees so that they can start investing rather than having to wait longer to actually vest. So I think it's a great idea, and I highly support this.
Thank you. If I see no more lights, may we have a roll call vote on adding the emergency item?
Mrs. Prati?
Yes.
Ms. Gamble?
Yes.
Mr. Pratt?
Yes.
Ms. Snowden?
Yes.
Mr. Geffner?
Yes.
Ms. Gerber?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Hopewell?
Yes.
Mrs. Abelister?
Yes.
Mr. Slutsky?
Yes.
Mr. Dodaro?
Yes.
Ms. Levine?
Yes.
Mr. Mandeville?
Yes.
Mrs. Domacy?
Yes.
Mr. Melody?
Yes.
Mr. Friedman?
Yes.
Ms. Isom?
Yes.
And Mr. Massetti?
Yes.
The motion passed.
Thank you very much. Okay, our first item of business is on page 33 and will be presented by Ms. Snowden.
Thank you, Madam President. As our community and the world is emerging from the pandemic and after 2 years of disruption, the Foundation is experiencing higher staff turnover and has recognized the importance of retaining and attracting talented employees in this fiercely competitive market. The board has identified this unique opportunity and is reviewing salaries, pay grades, and employee benefits as demonstrated by the recent 5% economic adjustment, current salary reviews, and the enhancement of the health care benefits offered. One additional benefit offered discussed at its executive session, the GRF Administration Committee on May 5th, 2022, is the existing vacation accrual. The committee identified the ability to improve this time of policy, time off policy, Per the current 2020 Employee Handbook, Section 7, Item D, GRF has 2 existing vacation policies. The current vacation accrual schedules listed below has been reviewed and evaluated. Basically, the first one is for full-time employees hired on or after January 1st, 2013, and they accrue at a certain rate. And the full-time employees hired before January 1st, 2013, and their accrual hours are listed below. Based on the discussion, the committee concluded that the vacation accrual benefit required revision to remain competitive. The proposed revision to the vacation accrual schedule would establish one policy and would adjust the rates of accrual. These changes are reflected below. Full-time benefit-eligible employees are eligible to accrue vacation benefits in accordance with the following schedule. 0 to 3.99 years, they will accrue 3.08 hours, 80 hours per year, with a maximum accrual of 120 hours. 4 years to 7.99 years, weekly accrual of 4.62 hours, 120 hours per year, 180 hours maximum accrual balance. 8 to 9.9 years, 6.16 hours, 160 hours per year, 240 hours maximum accrual. 10 plus years, 7.69 hours, 200 hours per year, 300 hours maximum accrual. Additionally, the committee recommends that employees who are at their maximum accrual be allowed to request cash out a maximum of 2 weeks pay 80 hours by November 30th of each year. In order to cash out, employees must leave a minimum of half of their unused and accrued balance. I move to approve the adoption of the proposed employee vacation accrual benefit, Section 7, Item D, of the current 2020 Employee Handbook as stated above, and include the additional cash-out opportunity as defined above.
Thank you. Is there a second to the motion?
I second it.
Carol Lamine, thank you. Again, the motion is to approve the adoption of the proposed employee vacation accrual benefit, Section 7, Item D of the current 2020 Employee Handbook as stated above, and include the additional cash-out opportunity also defined above. Do any board members wish to speak on this matter? Ms. Gamble.
I think this is an excellent improvement, and I think that many of the employees, particularly those who have been with us for a while, will appreciate this change, and it's particularly beneficial to those. The cash-out benefit is particularly an attractive addition.
Thank you. Mr. Geffner?
Yes, I too think it's a good idea, but I do have one question. By taking the cash-out option and doing maximum accrual, could someone avoid taking any vacation at all during a given year? Because as a prudent safety measure, you always want to force someone to take some vacation a year. That's just a wise thing. Banks learned that. That was the only way they uncovered a fraud, was when someone was on vacation. So they designed their policies now that someone has to take some contiguous vacation every year, and many companies do the same. I fully support it. I just don't want to leave the option that someone takes zero vacation for the entire year, because then you won't be able to see things in their absence.
We do say that they need to leave a minimum of half their unused accrual balance, but it doesn't state that you must take vacation. So
Then I would suggest that an amendment that says at least 1 week vacation contiguous should be taken each year.
Okay, let's let others speak, and then we'll address that. Ms. Isom?
I respectfully disagree with Mr. Geffner. I know as an employee, I would not necessarily want to be forced to take vacation. So I understand the concept, but I just don't think that that would be as attractive to our current employees, but more importantly, maybe even attractive to prospective employees. I think this is going to be a good incentive and make us more competitive in the local market as we're trying to compete for really quality applicants for open positions.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes, I would agree with Janet that I mean, at the very least, that this is a significant change of this particular motion, and I think we should just bring this back, bring the amendment that Mr. Geffner proposes back at some later point. I do have one question for the committee working on this, is that the very brief 2-year period that accrues 6.16 hours. I mean, in each case that there's a much more regular 4, 1.5, 2, and then, after 10 years, why the very, very brief period of accrual at between 8 and 9.99 years?
It's almost 3 years, isn't it? It's 8, 9, almost 2 years?
Madam President?
Does anybody, Janet?
Actually, we set this up specifically so that in the past we had it where you did not accrue and able to have a maximum accrual of 240 hours until you hit 15 plus years. And so now we've actually dropped it down so you can now accrue 300 hours in 10 plus. So we were trying to make it so that longer term employees, which we have many, actually would be able to accrue more hours. And in the meantime, the folks that are in the 8 to 10 year range are not going to be penalized for the fact that they haven't yet hit a 10-year mark. So that part actually stays the same from the prior listing. I think that that's going to be, let's just say, a reward for those who stay at 8 to 10 years, and hopefully they'll make it 10 plus so that they can actually reach the next level, and they'll get more vacation every year, and they'll have a higher accrual rate. So that was the thinking. It was nothing more than that.
Mr. Massetti?
I guess I just want to say, at least in my professional experience, these vacation accrual maximums were there to encourage people to take their vacation. And I think this undermines that. I'm nothing against employees and their service, but that's just my feeling. I don't. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Melody?
Yes, I have to agree with Sandy. I believe that an employee should take some time off during the year to regroup. And the idea of requiring at least 1 week does not mean that they have to take 1 week all at once, but they can take days off on that 1 week vacation period, which it will benefit them, not GRF, but them in taking time off to regroup and rest. And I would support the amendment, or I would support moving it back to committee to reevaluate. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Domacy?
Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Leanne say it's against the California law for us to force employees to take vacation? We asked this question because some of us wanted to know, could we force them to take vacation? And I believe she told us she couldn't, that we were not allowed to do that. We might want to ask Leanne.
I'm going to call on her next. Leanne? She did that because she unmuted herself.
As an organization, we can say and acknowledge that employees are approaching their maximum. At that point, we can strongly encourage, it's not whether it's legal or illegal, but as an organization, we can set a policy that, as you approach the maximum accrual rate, that we strongly encourage and use that strongly encourage, just like the strongly recommend wording that we've used before.
Okay, Mr. Geffner?
I'm sorry, I didn't think that was a complete answer to the question. Is it illegal to require?
Leanne?
Is it illegal? No, I don't believe so.
Thank you.
Ms. Parati?
Yes, thank you. Leanne, the question really wasn't if they approach their maximum. They may just have time. Do they have to take it?
And we can, as an organization, say, yes, you do need to take it. We can mandate that staff take their vacation.
For those that may not understand, once you reach the maximum accrual hours for whatever your term of employment is, you stop accruing vacation. So employees are highly motivated to take time off so that they can continue to accrue vacation. I just want everybody to understand that. Mr. Pratt?
Yeah, I think Sandy's recommendation falls in line with what the state requires. The employees have to take breaks. They can only work a certain number of days before they have to take a day off. This falls in line with what the state pretty much says is you can't be slaves. You got to let them have some time off. And I think what Sandy's suggestion falls in line with that, and that all of us at sometimes say, I really can't afford, I got projects going on, I don't want to stop, but you really should. And then when you do it and you go, God, I'm glad I did break up. I got my brain back and I got some fresh views on things. And I am for what Sandy proposed. If there's a way to do it, please do it.
Ms. Campbell?
I have to concur with both Mr. Pratt and Mr. Geffner. I believe strongly that should be a requirement that the employees take at least one contiguous week off, and carry over what they want, or up to the maximum hours allowable for each period of employment. But I think it's really imperative because there are issues. There are people who do fraudulent things and do not work in the most honest way, shall we say, and that sometimes these kinds of issues can be discovered when the person is not in attendance. And not that I'm saying any of our employees have ever been that way, but it is why provide, it's sort of like laying candy out in front of a thief. Don't do it. Just don't give them the opportunity to make errors. Thank you.
Ms. Snowden?
Thank you. I would like to request that the board pass the current motion about extending the vacation hours, and let us request that the next board address the concept of putting it, adding that proviso to it, because I would like our employees who are currently with us to begin this process of being rewarded and to have that time. Summer is coming up, and this would be a nice way for them to have extra hours to use, and then we can address that with all of the issues around it. It will take some discussion, but I would like to not delay this particular benefit for our employees.
Ms. Gerber? Ms. Gerber?
I don't agree with that, so is that all right? And I'm not seconding what she's saying.
It's not an option.
Okay.
The mic, we can't hear you. We can't hear you.
Ms. Gerber?
Is it on now? Okay. I think it's important to have people take a vacation for no other reason maybe than to make sure that we have backup people. That's a huge problem, and this way we will be assured 1 week, they'll have to kind of know the job, and I think that that is a really important aspect.
Okay, Mr. Massetti?
Yeah, I don't agree with the notion of passing now and revisit later. We pass now and later we're taking something away from the employee, which is a bad look. I just have to agree with Mr. Gettner that we should send this back and have it reworked properly. Thank you.
Mr. Mandeville?
Can we make this a friendly amendment?
No.
One change?
It's a major change, and it's not something, it's not a change to be taken lightly, and I know nobody at the dais does, but we need to sit down and talk about it and have input from HR and also input from our employment attorney so that we do this right. Ms. Domacy?
Well, talk about taking things away from employees. If we don't do this now, it's going to be another 2 months, and anybody that's been here for 10 years is going to lose out on a lot of time if we wait 2 months. We can add an amendment to it that says we require this, we require the executive committee, GRF admin committee, to revisit the taking of vacation. But if we don't pass this now, a lot of employees are going to lose a lot of vacation time.
Do you want to add that? Is that considered a friendly amendment?
No,
It
but I
doesn't
would-
change it, so.
I would add an amendment, I'll make an amendment to this, that it must be readdressed with the GRF admin committee about mandatory time off.
And do you accept that amendment? Ms.
No, somebody has to second mine, and then you vote
Oh,
for the
it's going to
amendment.
be, it's not going to be a friendly amendment?
No,
Okay.
it's an actual amendment.
I will second that amendment. Does anybody want to speak on the amendment?
Could you read it again, the amendment?
The amendment is to include and send this back to executive committee for consideration of a policy mandating vacation be taken. Is that?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so this amendment would read, this amendment for this item would read, I move to improve the adoption of the proposed employee vacation accrual benefit, Section 7, Item D of the current 2020 Employee Handbook, as stated above, and include the additional cash-out opportunity also defined above, and require the executive committee, or the GRF administration committee, review the, a vacation mandate clause. Mr. Geffner.
Yeah, I just want to clarify first. In
We're
general,
talking about the amendment only.
in general, I have a lot of faith in our employees, and they're very good, so I don't want to imply otherwise. However, I think it's truly prudent to make this step. I don't think the amendment quite gets us there. I think it's too important a topic to all the employees, and I favor giving them the additional vacation. I think they deserve it, but I'd like us to get it right. I think that often we do the expedient things and we move ahead, and it's not the best approach. I think we need to get this right. So I would actually favor sending it back to the committee.
Ms. Snowden.
I would just like to make another friendly amendment to the amendment that says it would be addressed in July.
I can't really understand you.
I would like to make a further amendment that it's addressed by the committee in July. We're telling them immediately to deal with it.
Yeah.
Over here.
Any other, yes, Lucy?
Yeah, can you explain the word review?
Can you speak closer?
Yes, I have a problem with the word review because if the policy doesn't exist right now, there's nothing for us to review. So with the amendment, in my opinion, should state that we are going to consider a mandatory vacation time rather than to review it, because we don't, we currently don't
Yeah,
have it.
okay.
So then that's my concern with the
Okay.
vocabulary. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Pratt?
Yeah, I think you're splitting the baby here. Either send it back or vote on it now, because you're going to have two different boards. This board's saying, take an action, then it'll be another board who may not agree with it at all, who doesn't even care. There's at least two of us that are not going to be here. So I think you're splitting one action between two different boards. And I all in one or all in the other, but don't split it.
I see no further lights. Can we vote on this amendment now?
Are we sticking to the original Snowden?
No, we are voting on the amendment to add the wording to the original amendment to consider, to send this to GRF Administration Committee for July 2020 agenda for consideration of a mandatory vacation policy. May we have a roll call vote?
That's the book.
Mrs. Prati?
Yes.
Ms. Gamble? Ms. Gamble?
I just wanted to clarify something you just said, Paula. I think you said 2020 and you meant 2022, but I'm confused.
2022.
Okay.
July.
All right, then, yes.
Mr. Pratt?
No.
Ms. Snowden?
Yes.
Mr. Geffner?
No.
Ms. Gerber?
No.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Hopewell?
Yes.
Mrs. Abelser?
Yes.
Mr. Slutsky?
Yes.
Mr. Dodaro?
Yes.
Ms. Levine?
No.
Mr. Mandeville?
Yes.
Mrs. Domacy?
Yes.
Mr. Melody?
Yes.
Mr. Friedman?
No.
Ms. Isom?
Yes.
And Mr. Massetti?
No.
Okay,
Yeses.
The motion passed with 6 no votes.
okay. So the motion passes. So the amended motion that we are going to address right now is I move to approve the adoption of the proposed employee vacation accrual benefit, Section 7, Item D of the current 2020 Employee Handbook as stated above, and include the additional cash-out opportunity also defined above, and have the GRF Administration Committee consider a mandatory vacation policy in their July 2022 meeting. Require. Yes, require the GRF Administration Committee to consider a mandatory vacation policy in July 2022 agenda.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's already been seconded by Carol Levine. Well, she didn't second the amended policy, so I will accept yours, because she did vote no. Didn't you vote no on the policy, on the amendment? Yes. Okay. So, does anybody want to speak on the amended motion? Mr. Melody?
Am I not correct in saying that this board cannot require anything of the next board?
We're not requiring anything of the next board. We're sending an item to the next committee.
Excuse me? My question is, can this board require the next board to do anything legally?
Yes.
Under what circumstances, Carol?
If you return a policy right now, say one of these policies you want to return, if you return that to the committee, you're requiring them to look at that policy again.
No, you're not.
You're just carrying forward the work of the board.
But
If the next board wishes not to do that, then they cannot do it. But we're saying, we strongly suggest
No,
you
no,
do
you're
this. You have the
requiring.
right to do it.
The word is require in this motion.
Yes, it is.
My statement is that this board, or any board that is going to change, either it's mutual or GRF, cannot require the next board to do anything.
I don't see it as we are requiring the next board to do anything. We are requiring that the GRF Administration Committee have this item on their agenda in July. I don't know what that committee will do, but if they do come up with a proposed language for taking vacation, they will send it to the board. That does not mean the board is required to pass it or not.
But
It will be an agenda item for the board.
But Madam President, you cannot require the next administration committee to do anything legally.
May I speak?
I disagree with you on that. Ms. Parati?
I have sent a multitude of things to put on the July agenda for the Recreation Committee. All we're doing is putting something on an agenda. I believe every committee has sent things that will be on the July agenda for each of the committees, and I think that's all we are doing now.
Mr. Thompson?
Just going a little bit further on that, on Ms. Prati's notion is that by passing this, we are requiring the next board to do something. They are legally obligated to enforce this policy until such time as they revoke it. So we are always requiring future boards to do things, and the 1962 board has required us to do things, and I still haven't gotten over my resentment of that, but it's legal.
Thank you. I see no further lights. May we have a roll call vote?
Mrs. Prati?
Yes.
Ms. Gamble?
Yes.
Mr. Pratt?
Yes.
Ms. Snowden?
Yes.
Mr. Geffner?
No.
Ms. Gerber?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Hopewell?
Yes.
Mrs. Ablisser?
Yes.
Mr. Slutsky?
Yes.
Mr. Dodaro?
Yes.
Ms. Levine?
Yes.
Mr. Mandeville?
Yes.
Mrs. Dalmacy?
Yes.
Mr. Melody?
No.
Mr. Friedman?
Yes.
Ms. Isom?
Yes.
And Mr. Massetti?
Yes.
The motion passes 2 no votes.
Thank you. The next item is the emergency item. Hopefully you've all received it via email if you want to check. I will read the board action request for those that don't have access to it. I'll wait for Mr. Slutsky. Okay. At its meeting on May 19th, 2022, the 401K Investment Committee reviewed, discussed, and unanimously approved enriching the current 401K plan in an effort to boost employees' retirement security and improve employee retention. The proposed revision to the 401K eligibility would include 2 amendments to the plan design of eligibility and entry. Currently, to be eligible to enroll in the 401K plan, employees must meet a minimum service of 1 year and 1,000 hours of service. The committee voted and unanimously approved to change the eligibility to align with eligibility of the health benefits, which is 30 days. The plan would be the plan entry would be the first of the month following the date of initial eligibility. Furthermore, the committee voted and unanimously approved the change of contribution and company matching. Currently, GRF matches 50% for each 1% contribution up to 8%, 4% maximum match. The approved change would amend the contribution to 50% of every 1% contribution up to 10% of 5% maximum match. According to our current plan advisor, by changing the company contribution maximum to 5%, GRF would offer an exceptional 401K plan. The estimated budget impact based on the current participation with additional 1% increase is approximately $70,000. Currently, there are 75 employees actively participating in the plan, and we anticipate a potential increase in the participation of 30 more employees. To integrate these changes to the plan, Empower would assess a one-time fee of $375 to process the above-listed amendments. So the first motion is to approve the adoption of the proposed 401K plan eligibility and entry dates of the first of the month following 30 days of employment and increase the company maximum contribution to 5% to be effective as soon as administratively feasible, and authorize GRF HR Director to sign the required amendments and approve amendment fees of $375. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I second it.
Who was that?
I second it.
Mr. Melody? Thank you.
Okay.
Again, the motion is to approve the adoption of the proposed 401K plan eligibility and entry dates of the first of the month following 30 days of employment, and increase the company maximum contribution to 5% to be effective as soon as administratively feasible, and authorize GRF HR Director to sign the required amendment and approve the amendment fees of $375. Does anyone wish to speak on this matter? Ms. Parati?
Yes, two things. One, just to confirm, this $375 is to GRF, it's not to the individual employees?
Yes.
Oh, no, it's...
Okay. And then, when I look at option one, they talk about to increase the company maximum contribution 5%. That is not in option two? This option one talks about the 30 days and so on, and then it goes on and increase the company maximum contribution to 5% to be effective as soon as administratively feasible. But that's not in option two?
But that's not what?
Is not in the second option?
Well, option two is actually a second amendment. That's going to change the date you can start your 401K. It's a separate motion.
Oh.
If I'm correct, Madam President, option one is all in one. So it's the entry date and the eligibility date, and also increasing our...
Sorry, I misread it.
5%.
So,
and that option two is if option one failed.
okay. Thank you for the clarification.
You're welcome.
I shouldn't read these at 4 o'clock in the morning. Okay.
That's why you have us.
So,
Ms.
option two goes in if option one
doesn't
do. So, I'm just confused.
Option one includes the
but we need to
the entry date changing. You're eligible after 30 days of employment, and it also includes the maximum contribution being 5%. And it also includes authorization for the HR Director to sign the paperwork and for GRF to pay the administration fee of $375.
So just to clarify, if option one does not pass, we go to option two, and there is no maximum.
There's no change in the maximum.
And there is no, the maximum stays at what it is, 4%.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Mr. Geffner.
Yeah, given the uncertainty of Social Security, and I think we should be doing all we can to help the employees put away money for retirement. I think all of us here can appreciate the money you need in retirement, and I think going to that difference is a smart move, better for them, and we're wise to give it to them.
Ms. Isom.
Yes, I just wanted to mention, whenever you mentioned Empower, above in the description, that's actually the administrator of our 401K plan, and they would be the ones that we would actually be paying the $375 fee to change the plan. That was all.
Okay. Anyone else? May we have a roll call vote?
Mrs. Prati? Yes. Ms. Gamble?
Yes.
Mr. Pratt?
Yes.
Ms. Snowden?
Yes.
Mr. Geffner?
Yes.
Ms. Gerber?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Hopewell?
Yes.
Mrs. Ablisser?
Yes.
Mr. Slutsky?
Yes.
Mr. Dodaro?
Yes.
Ms. Levine?
Yes.
Mr. Mandeville?
Yes.
Mrs. Domnessy?
Yes.
Excuse me, Mr. Melody?
Yes.
Mr. Friedman?
Yes.
Ms. Isom?
Yes.
And Mr. Massetti?
Yes.
The motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. And thank you for the clarification, Leanne. Our next item of business is on page 35 and will be presented by Ms. Gerber.
Thank you. This is a final vote to amend 30-5093-1, authorized resident rules of conduct. At the March 21st, 2022 meeting of the Recreation Committee, the committee moved to recommend the GRF Board of Directors to amend 30-5093-1, authorized resident rules of conduct. The change was at 2.4.1.10, willful damage, destruction, or defacing of trust property or unauthorized, unlawful entry, use, or trespass upon trust property. I move to amend 30-5093-1, authorized resident rules of conduct as presented.
Second.
And the motion is seconded by Mr. Friedman. And again, the motion is to amend 30-5093-1, authorized resident rules of conduct as presented. This is a final vote. Do any members wish to speak on this matter? I see no light. Oh, I do see a light. Mr. Thompson?
Yes, in provision 3.1, does the shading on the word each have any meaning? Is that a change, or is that a?
That'll be gone after it's updated.
Okay.
Thank you. I see no further lights. May we have a roll call vote?
Mrs. Prati? Yes. Ms. Gamble?
Yes.
Mr. Pratt?
Yes.
Ms. Snowden?
Yes.
Mr. Geffner?
Yes.
Ms. Gerber?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Hopewell?
Yes.
Mrs. Ablisser?
Yes.
Mr. Slutsky?
Yes.
Mr. Dodaro?
Yes.
Ms. Levine?
Yes.
Mr. Mandeville?
Yes.
Mrs. Domnessy?
Yes.
Mr. Melody?
Yes.
Mr. Friedman?
Yes.
Ms. Isom?
Yes.
And Mr. Massetti?
Yes.
The motion was carried unanimously.
Thank you. Our next item will be presented by Ms. Isom on page 39.
At the April 26, 2022 Golden Rain Foundation Board meeting, the board approved the purchase of 3 2022 model year club card carry-all 510 LSV electric utility vehicles using $65,000 in capital funding. Because this purchase is to replace existing electric vehicles, the Finance Committee suggested changing the funding source from capital funding to reserve funding. At the May 16, 2022 meeting of the Finance Committee, the committee passed a motion to request the board to change the funding source from capital funding to reserve funding for this purchase. I move to approve the change in funding source from capital funding to reserve funding of $65,000 for the purchase of 3 2022 model year club card carry-all 510 LSV electric utility vehicles that will be replacing 3 existing electric vehicles originally approved by the GRF Board of Directors on April 26, 2022.
I
Thank
second
you.
it.
Mr. Dodaro seconds the motion. Again, the motion is to approve the change in funding source from capital funding to reserve funding of $65,000 for the purchase of 3 2022 model year club car carry-all 510 LSV electric utility vehicles that will be replacing 3 existing electrical vehicles originally approved by the GRF Board of Directors on April 26, 2022. Does anyone wish to speak on this matter? Ms. Parati?
Yes, will those 3 vehicles that are being replaced be removed from the fleet and sold? Because that's not what came up at the meeting.
I think that Grant said that because we've had such problems with them repairing them and getting parts, I don't think that they were going to be eligible for resale. Do you recall, Mark?
I don't.
I'll take that look.
I don't recall.
As no. We will follow up on that, but I think to recall that he said they were not in good quality and caused him a great deal of problem in getting parts.
Yeah, but he didn't say he was going to remove them. He said he was going to add the 3. So that's why I'm curious about switching it to reserve, because when we do, then we have to get rid of those 3.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Ms. Gamble?
My impression of what he said was that he was going to cannibalize those 3, that they were out of service and no longer really workable, and maybe a few parts, but I thought he said that they weren't really worth anything.
Thank you. Ms. Isom?
Yes, well, the one thing he was very clear about was we were replacing the 3 existing electric vehicles. One of my fellow board members asked me why we were changing this funding source, and the answer is because we screwed up. That's why.
Yes.
So that is why it's coming back to the board. There was a misunderstanding on whether or not it was going to be a replacement or if it was going to be an addition, but the wording in the original motion was replacement, and thus why we're asking it to be switched to reserve funding.
Thank you. I see no further lights. May we have a roll call vote?
Mrs. Prati?
No.
Ms. Gamble?
Yes.
Mr. Pratt?
Yes.
Ms. Snowden?
Yes.
Mr. Geffner?
Yes.
Ms. Gerber?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Hopewell?
Yes.
Mrs. Ablisser?
Yes.
Mr. Slutsky?
Yes.
Mr. Dodaro?
Yes.
Ms. Levine?
Yes.
Mr. Mandeville?
Yes.
Mrs. Dalmacy?
Yes.
Mr. Melody?
Yes.
Mr. Friedman?
Yes.
Ms. Isom?
Yes.
And Mr. Massetti?
Yes.
The motion passed with 1 no vote.
Thank you. Our next item of business is on page 41 and will be presented by Mrs. Ablisser.
At the March 21st, 2022 meeting of the Recreation Committee, the committee moved to recommend the GRF Board of Directors to amend 40-5061-2 fees. At the March 22, 2021 meeting of the GRF Board of Directors, the board voted to tentatively amend 40-5061-2 fees pending a 28-day notice period to foundation members. The document draft was published in the March 31st edition of the Leisure World Weekly. Members were welcome to submit their comments or questions to the board office on this matter. This process is recommended in accordance with Civil Code 4360. No correspondence was received during the 28-day notification to the membership period. Therefore, I move to amend 40-5661-2 fees as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Slutsky seconds the motion. And again, the motion is to amend 40-5061-2 fees as presented. And I remind everyone that this is a final vote. Do any board members wish to speak on this matter? Mr. Friedman?
I'd just like some clarification. I don't understand the difference between 3.1 and 3.2. Can somebody explain that?
GRF shall issue 1 membership certificate per unit.
And then what does 3.2 say?
GRF shall issue 1 stock certificate per unit in mutuals 1 through 12 and 14 through 16. That's the mutual, that's the mutual certificate,
Okay.
right?
I knew the answer.
Mr.
Mutual
Massetti?
17 Mutual 17 actually doesn't get a stock certificate, so.
Could you?
That's why we
Could you-
hello. Mutual 17 doesn't get a stock certificate, that's why we separated it out.
yes, that's why you're left out of that item. Oh, okay. Okay, Mr. Geffner?
Yeah, I just want to clarify, on line 11, under 1.2, it says, or qualified permanent resident co-owner? Is that co-owner really there? Or shouldn't it just be qualified permanent resident? I'm confused. Is that really co-owner?
Which line?
11.
Ms. Isom?
Yes, that is. It's a qualified permanent resident co-owner, which is what I was when I entered the community because I was not 55 years old. But I was a co-owner on the certificate. And I was listed specifically as a qualified permanent resident.
Ah, okay, so it is only for co-owners who are QPRs?
Right. It's not for a QPR that is not a co-owner.
Okay, so
That's
it's
why there's
correct.
no
Okay.
comma in the middle
Now
there.
makes more sense, thank you.
Okay.
Okay. I see no further lights. This is a final vote. May we have a roll call vote?
Mrs. Parady? Yes. Ms. Gamble?
Yes.
Mr. Pratt?
Yes.
Ms. Snowden?
Yes.
Mr. Geffner?
Yes.
Ms. Gerber?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Hopewell?
Yes.
Mrs. Ablisser?
Yes.
Mr. Susky?
Yes.
Mr. Dodaro?
Yes.
Ms. Levine?
Yes.
Mr. Mandeville?
Yes.
Mrs. Dalmacy?
Yes.
Mr. Melody?
Yes.
Excuse me, Mr. Friedman?
Yes.
Ms. Isom?
Yes.
And Mr. Massetti?
Yes.
The motion was carried unanimously.
Thank you. The next item on page 47 will be presented by Mr. Mandeville.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to amend 50-6101-5, planning ahead for my family, updating document language throughout as presented.
I second it.
The motion is seconded by Carol Levine. Again, the motion is to amend 50-6101-5, planning ahead for my family, updating the document language throughout as presented. Do any board members wish to speak on this matter? Ms. Levine? Oh, that's okay. Ms. Gerber?
Yes, I'd like to thank Chairman Mandeville for getting this through, and it's absolutely excellent document and very well needed, and I hope that it will be looked at every year for updates.
Thank you. Mr. Mandeville?
I would like to thank Ms. Gerber for all of her hard work and support.
Thank you. I had a request from On-Site Sales for this document. They were giving a presentation to, I believe it was the Sunshine Club, and they wanted to hand these out. So I took it upon myself to have the new version printed and given to them, because the presentation was earlier, or late last week. When I had them copied, there was an extra page that was blank because of the number of pages that are in the document. And if we're going to have it printed as a booklet, I would like to suggest that the last page just have at the top notes where the family can make notes. It's not, and it doesn't look odd that we just have a blank page. That's the only thing I have to say. This document is fabulous, and it should be a huge help. It has been a huge help to families in the past, and it will continue to be so. And so I would like to make that amendment to the document itself, and I'll ask the staff to do that if it's approved.
Oh, I accept the amendment, thank you.
So do I.
Thank you. Mr. Thompson?
That back page originally, and I helped prepare the previous version that is now.
Can you speak closer? Those of you with masks really need to speak closer because for me, you're being muffled.
The final page of that document was originally intended to be a advertising sales page, and I don't know if there is the capacity to sell that page, but that's a very valuable piece of real estate, and we may want, at least in the next year's edition.
In the next year's edition, that can be a consideration. I agree with you. Ms. Isom?
I'm going to ask this question. So my understanding is this is a replacement for the bereavement handbook that we had in the past?
Yes.
And expansion now specifically for the shareholder, but not just for the heirs, et cetera. Okay. Well, everyone refers to it as that, so I wanted to make sure that was clear to
Yeah,
everyone in the audience.
this has been the name of it for the last couple of editions of it. But
Understood.
we continue to call it the bereavement book because we can't remember the name.
Well, I just figured this year we have this on live stream, so there might actually be people listening that have never sat in on one of our meetings and never heard that part.
I will remember the name in the future because I've been filling it out for my family. So, I see no more lights. May we have a roll call vote?
Mrs. Proudy? Yes. Ms. Gamble?
Yes.
Mr. Pratt?
Yes.
Ms. Snowden?
Yes.
Mr. Geffner?
Yes.
Ms. Gerber?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Hopewell?
Yes.
Mrs. Abelister?
Yes.
Mr. Susky?
Yes.
Mr. Dodaro?
Yes.
Ms. Levine?
Yes.
Mr. Mandeville?
Yes.
Mrs. Dormacy?
Yes.
Mr. Melody?
Yes.
Mr. Friedman?
Yes.
Ms. Isom?
Yes.
And Mr. Musetti?
Yes.
The motion was carried unanimously.
Thank you. And I encourage anyone in the audience who's a Leisure World resident or anyone listening on live stream to request the Planning Ahead for My Family booklet from the Stock Transfer Office and fill it out. Your family will thank you. The next item for presentation, there are two motions for, and Mr. Friedman will be presenting both. They begin on page 81.
Excuse me.
The first motion is to cancel the contract we have with County Heating and Air. Did I skip one?
No,
Or-
I wanted to ask.
Then we will move to the second motion, yes?
I just want to ask as a point of order, if it's possible. I know that we've always had the roll call during COVID and when many of our personnel were remote. And today, we're all present. And I'm just wondering if we might be able to dispense with the roll call vote for each of these items because it'll move faster.
We can't because the people on the floor need to vote, and they only have one light.
Well, can't they raise their hands? And, I mean, you know, we've had like 5 votes that, it's just to move it along. That's all I'm just asking.
Does anybody care if we dispense with the roll call vote and have people on the floor raise their hand and if they agree? I don't know how you would tell if they're agreeing with the motion or saying no, but...
All in favor? Just ask all in favor.
Mr. Friedman,
Yes.
you're okay with that? Okay. Mr. Friedman, you go with the next motion and we'll try this.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chairman, Madam President. The first motion that I have in front of me is to repeal or cancel the contract that we had originally signed with the contractors, County Heating and Air, to replace the HVAC systems at Clubhouse 6 for $229,321, plus a contingency for a total cost of $252,253. I move to cancel the contract with County Heating and Air Incorporation to replace the HVAC systems at Clubhouse 6, second floor, for a cost of $229,253.
I'll second that.
Mr. Melody seconds the motion. Again, the motion is to cancel the contract with County Heating and Air, Inc. to replace the HVAC systems at Clubhouse 6, second floor, for the cost of $229,321. Do any board members wish to speak on this motion? Mr. Friedman?
I'm just a little confused in the amount. It's $229,321, but up above, we had added a contingency to it to make it $252,253. Should it not be for the entire amount?
We're just canceling the contract. We didn't have any contingencies.
I
so-
beg your pardon?
I say we were just canceling the contract. There was no contingencies spent or assumed to be spent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Friedman, your light's still on? Okay. For those of you sitting at the dais, you can vote by light. For those of you sitting at the tables, please raise your hand if you're in favor of this motion. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and I count as 18. This motion passes unanimously.
My next motion,
Could I just say this is easier for you, but not for me? That's okay.
My next motion is to replace that.
Please turn your lights off. Excuse me, Mr. Friedman, and thank you, Mr. Mazzetti.
Okay, my next motion then is I move to award a contract to County Heating and Air Conditioning for services of Clubhouse 6, second floor, heat pumps at a cost not to exceed $10,000 of reserve funding, and authorize the president to sign the contract.
I'll second that one also.
Mr. Melody seconds that motion. Again, the motion is to award a contract to County Heating and Air Conditioning for service of Clubhouse 6, second floor heat pumps at a cost not to exceed $10,000 reserve funding, and authorize the president to sign the contract. Do any board members wish to speak on this matter? Mr. Thompson?
Yes, I would just like to commend both our staff and also the people at County Heating and Air Conditioning for our savings of $213,000 on this contract. And this, of course, was stimulated by the fact of the need to, or at least the perceived need to, reduce the temperature in the upstairs exercise facility. And this was a much, much cheaper alternative.
Yes.
And I think I just say that to inform everyone else. I think everyone on the board
Considerably
knows
cheaper. Mr. Friedman?
I want to concur with that. I want to congratulate the Physical Properties for reviewing, revisiting, and revising this downwards from $230,000 to $10,000.
Anyone else? Okay. For those of you sitting on the dais, please use your buttons to vote. For those of you on the floor, please raise your hand if you support this motion, if you're voting yes. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 yeses. Please raise your hand or turn on your light if you're voting no on this motion. So why did I only get 14? Oh. Thank you, Donna Gamble. The motion passes unanimously. Mrs. Domacy, will you please present the next item on page 87?
I'm going to read the whole thing because it explains why we're doing it. Funding in the amount of $2,169,000 was allocated in the 2022 reserve study for asphalt resurfacing and slurry work. See Exhibit A. Streets included in the project are Annandale, Brookline, Birding Tree, Del Monte, El Dorado, Homewood, McKinney, Nassau, Northfield, Fairfield, Northwood, Oak Hills, Prestwick, Twin Hills. I've never pronounced that other one right. Scioto, Sunningdale, Shawnee, St. John, and Tam O'Shanter. The Physical Property Department sent out a request for a proposal, RFP, to 4 different contractors for the resurfacing and slurry work. See Work Scope Exhibit B. A mandatory bidders conference was conducted April 14, 2022. In attendance was representatives from MJ Gerardo. That's it. Sealed bids were opened at the regular scheduled meeting of the Physical Property Committee, PPC, on April 6, 2022. The list of bidders and their sealed bids are as follows. MJ Gerardo, $2,640,303. Griffith Company, currently bidding prevailing wage jobs only at this time. RJ Noble, not able to bid, too much work. Sully Miller Contracting did not respond to voice and email requests. The committee discussed a single bid, reason contractors not bidding, and removing some streets from the project to keep the cost below the allocated amount. However, with the cost of material and labor increasing, the committee concurred to follow through with the scheduled work, recommending the GRF board awarded a contract to MJ Gerardo for a cost not to exceed $2,640,303 and seek financial committee review for additional $471,303 of reserve funding. MJ Gerardo has also agreed to spread the asphalt grinding as needed in the RV lot at no additional charge. At the May 16, 2022 meeting, the Finance Committee, the committee determined that sufficient funds in the amount of $2,640,303 reserve funding are available. The committee placed a temporary hold on these funds pending a board action to release the funds for this project. I move to award a contract to MJ Gerardo for the asphalt resurfacing and slurry work as called out in Exhibit B, not to exceed $2,640,303 reserve funding, and authorize the president to sign the contract.
Second.
Second.
Motion is seconded by Tony Tadero. Again, the motion is to award a contract to MJ Gerardo for the asphalt resurfacing and slurry work as called out in Exhibit B, not to exceed $2,640,303 reserve funding, and authorize the president to sign the contract. Do any board members wish to speak on this matter? Mr. Geffner.
Yeah, I have a question for the committee. Did they look, are any of these carport streets, which typically don't have significant piping underneath, and if you do it in concrete, you can take it off the reserve study for years and years and years. It's fiscally responsible to use concrete instead of asphalt, where you don't worry much about cutting it up for underneath. Many mutuals have done this, and I just want to know if we even considered this.
That was addressed to the committee. Mark, do you want to respond to it?
Yes, so in almost all of these streets, and some of them are only slurry only, and we're not doing grind and overlay. The ones that we're doing grind and overlay do have utilities underneath them. Utilities.
Thank you.
I see no further lights. Those of you at the dais, please vote using the buttons. Those of you on the floor, please raise your hand if you're voting yes for this motion. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. The motion passes unanimously. I can be taught. The next item is on page 109 and will be presented by Mr. Melody.
Thank you, Madam President. At the May 4th, 22 meeting of the Fiscal Properties Committee, the committee moved and approved to recommend to the GRF Board award of a contract to Ogun Construction for adding 3 110-volt electrical outlets to the pit stop facility at the 1.8 acre in the amount of $6,380 to include a 10% contingency for not to exceed $7,018 capital funding. At the May 16th meeting, the Finance Committee, the committee determined that sufficient funds are available for the cost of this project not to exceed $7,018 capital funding. I therefore move to award the contract to Ogun Construction for adding 3 110-volt electrical outlets to the pit stop facility at the 1.8 in the amount not to exceed $7,018 capital funding, and to authorize the president to sign the contract.
I second
Motion
it.
is seconded by Phil Friedman. And again, the motion is to award a contract to Ogun Construction for adding 3 110-volt electrical outlets to the pit stop facility at 1.8 in the amount not to exceed $7,018 capital funding, and to authorize the president to sign the contract. Do any members wish to speak on this matter? Ms. Gamble?
Yeah, I just was, I'm curious why the 110-volt electrical outlets are needed. And I personally am not familiar with the pit stop facility, so if we could have some enlightenment on that, I would appreciate it.
Does anybody wish to speak on this matter? Mark?
Sure. So the club, the cart club, puts on an event. Is better?
Yeah.
The golf cart club puts on an event once a year, or a couple times a year actually, where they service vehicles, and they, instead of using a compressor with a generator, they'd like to plug their generator in so they can service the vehicles.
Ms. Isom?
I would just like to see if in the actual motion itself, instead of saying at 1.8, can we say at 1.8 acre? I mean, 1.8 doesn't mean anything to anyone in the future necessarily. At least identify the area.
We can make that a friendly amendment?
Yeah, that's okay with me. I said it the first time.
I agree. I agree.
Okay. Mr. Thompson?
Yes, I think it would be useful to the community to understand why 3 110 outlets, what else is included in the project that makes 3 110 outlets cost $7,000?
Yeah.
So the length of conduit that has to be bolted to the wall to go from where the electrical power supply is several feet. I don't have the exact amount of footage that it is, but it's a pretty good length, and that's the cost.
120 feet?
Is it
Of
in the, is
conduit?
it in the write-up?
Yeah.
Yes, so that is the basic cost.
Ms. Adlisser?
I do have a question about the Ogun construction bid itself. You know, he says here, build to Golden Rain Foundation Mini Farm. I don't think we've decided what to do with the 1.3 acres. I think it would be confusing for someone. I would like to see that change to 1.3. Is there a way you can have him do that?
1.8.
You know
We
what I'm
can.
saying?
If it gets improved, the invoice will be corrected.
Yeah, because I think it's an incorrect invoice at this point. It's misleading.
Thank you. Ms. Parati?
Yes, has it been established by the committee on the 1.8 acres that the pit stop will remain there? Has the plans been put in stone as to what's going to be happening there?
The committee has actually taken away consideration of any of that part of the 1.8. The trash facility, the storage areas, and the pit stop area. That's not inclusive of the 1.8 committee's consideration of how that's going to be planned in the future.
Because my question was to put this in, and then something else decided to do there, that we spent $7,000 and we're going to be taking it out. So I was in favor of waiting till we determine what we're going to do with the entire area and then put it in. They're able to function at this point until that decision is to be made.
Ms. Snowden?
Thank you. Just for clarification, could we add to the motion that it's the pit stop facility used by the Rolling Thunder Service Club? Because, again, when I looked at that, I don't know the pit stop, so I think it would be useful to the community to understand that this is the space that this...
After we have the rest of the comments, can we consider that? Ms. Gerber, you have your green light on. Is that the... Okay. Ms. Domacy?
Well, right now, they do put air in your tires and water in your batteries and stuff every 3 months during the year. And I think it's in our best interest to get all those golf carts away from behind Clubhouse 4, where the people come in. They go in the same lanes that all those cars coming in the north gate comes in. And we're going to need electricity up there run anyway, because we're going to need it to install cameras. So whether we do it now or do it later, we want to put cameras up there for the garbage and trash containers. Might as well do it now.
Thank you. I'm trying to get people that haven't spoken yet on this item. Mr. Friedman, have you spoken yet on this item?
I just said, I seconded it.
Okay, you're good.
Okay, what I wanted to say was that, yes, they do have the periodic air in the tires and water in the batteries, and hundreds, almost 200 carts show up. They present a serious obstacle around Clubhouse 4. It would be in our benefit to have them go to the clubhouse, to the pit stop. The pit stop also has generators in there that they run through propane, and it would be far better if they could run them through electricity. Of course, they can run them faster and they can charge faster. And in general, it's a good idea, and we've agreed it's going to stay there. We're not looking at that area for anything other than the pit stop.
Thank you. Mr. Pratt?
Mark, are our electricians qualified to do this job?
We could not pull a permit. A permit needs to be pulled.
Why couldn't we pull a permit?
We don't have an electrical contractor on staff.
Okay, because I see some of these smaller jobs under $10,000. If there was a way we could do it ourselves, since we have these people on staff, it'd be a lot less expensive.
The city would not allow us to.
Is that right, Sandra?
Thank you. Mr. Dodaro?
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate the fact that the Rolling Thunder needs these. Every 4 months, they do a water and air, and it is beneficial to everybody that utilizes it for golf carts.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Parati?
Yes. Ms. Dalmacy alluded to the fact that security cameras go in there. Yes, they do. That was originally why we put the electricity in. But this $7,000 does not include anything with security cameras. Am I correct? It's going to come back, and we're going to have to put more money to get conduits for the security cameras.
We would have to have additional work done, yes.
Right. And the Rolling Thunder does an outstanding job. Very happy to have them, but they have functioned for
60 years.
Since they got that place with their compressors. And I just don't think it's a precedent that we need to be spending money specifically for a individual club, because a lot of the clubs that are here do great things for our community. And I don't think that we have anything that's been voted on by the board as to the permanency of anything that's in the 1.8 at this time.
Ms. Gamble?
The running of the conduit, and there was a series of electrical lights put into, or fixtures put into the 1.8 acres in the past year. I don't know if they were ever plugged in, if they are illuminated or not. Are they currently illuminated, that row of lights? Okay.
Yes.
Why cannot a line or two be run from one of those lines over to a short line to the, quote, pit stop facility? Wouldn't that be less expensive?
You can't put an electrical outlet on a lighting line
Code. Why?
for code.
Because?
For
That's
code.
your answer?
Code.
For code.
Oh. Well, that's very interesting. I thought I saw outlets on light poles often, but okay, thank you.
Ms. Eisen?
I just want to say that this whole 1.8 acre mini farm issue came up whenever we decided to put lights back in the 1.8 acre area for security reasons before we even got to the cameras. And that's when we ended up discovering that none of our fences back there were permitted. And that is how we got to where we are today. I have to agree with Leah. I don't know that this is a necessary expense at this time. I think that it might be something that future board may want to revisit, but I can't support this kind of money for 3 electrical outlets at this point.
I see no further lights. Those of you on the floor, if you're voting yes, please raise your hand. Those on the dais, please use your lights to vote. So I have 2 on the floor for yes, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 yeses. Please, somebody, and then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 no, so I'm missing one. Everybody, please leave your lights on until I call the vote.
Your vote.
I thought I counted myself, but we'll find out. If you're voting yes, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, counting me. That's 18 votes. The motion passes. Okay, the next item is on page 111 and will be presented by Mr. Dodaro.
Okay, thank you, Madam President. At the May 4th, 2022 meeting of the Physical Property Committee, the committee moved and approved to recommend to the GRF Board of Directors to approve Clubhouse 1 pool room upgrades with the replacement of windows, exterior doors, and interior painting in the amount not to exceed $26,523 reserve funding. At the May 16th, 2022 meeting of the Finance Committee, the committee determined that sufficient funds is available in the amount not to exceed $26,523 for this project. I move, and I would like to make a comment afterwards, all right? I move to award the following contract for Clubhouse 1 upgrade to Custom Glass for doors and windows, $20,275. Axios door for ADA access for 1 storefront door, $3,420.82. Service maintenance and work order in the amount of $800 for main material to repaint Clubhouse 1 pool room, okay? The total project cost of the Clubhouse 1 pool room upgrade is not to exceed $26,523.50 reserve funding, and award and authorize the president to sign the needed contracts.
I'll second that.
Mr. Melody seconds the motion. And again, the motion is to award the following contracts for Clubhouse 1 upgrades to Custom Glass for doors and windows, $20,275. Access door for ADA access for 1 storefront door, $3,420.82. Service maintenance, a work order in the amount of $800 for materials to repaint Clubhouse 1 pool room. The total project cost for Clubhouse 1 pool room upgrade is not to exceed $26,523.50 reserve funding, and authorize the president to sign the needed contracts. Do any board members wish to speak on this matter? Mr. Dodaro.
Okay, Axios door, their contract identifies 4 doors, all right? And the price of those 4 doors is up to $12,123 and, I can't read that, it's 91 cents, I think. Yeah. All right? The thing is, we're only going to take one of the doors. So for all of the amenities that they add, furnish and installation and the following for all the doors, but they're only going to be doing one door, including freight, standard, and labor, and installation, and all the warranty information. It means that we're getting the one door for $3,420.82. My calculations for the one door is $3,030.98. There's a difference of $389.84. And what's it for, Mark?
So this is a cost that we received from them verbally to get the information in the agenda. We took the costs off of the 4 different ones that you see in the packet. The cost went up, and that reflects what the cost is in the write-up.
That's the difference, because the cost went up?
Cost went up.
So that means that 12,000, whatever, is actually going to be actually more?
No.
For 4 doors?
That's a different proposal. That was just a comparison. I didn't have anything to put in the board write-up, so we put that in for comparison. We do have a cost from them for $3,420.82.
Okay, it just means that there's that $89.84.
Have those other 3 doors already been purchased and installed?
That's for another project, yes.
Okay. So our door is not of that.
It will not be over $3,420.82.
Now, what about all of the warranty information?
All the same.
The installation?
All the same.
It's all going to be the same?
It's included in that $3,420.
Okay, thank you.
Do any other board members wish to speak on this matter? Ms. Isom?
Yes, I was just going to say, the sales proposal here is for the wood shop, and that's why there was 4 doors. But the pricing and from the vendor and the warranty, everything else remains the same. But it sounds like, like everything else, materials have gone up. So I had the same question as Tony initially. Thank you.
For those of you on the floor, please raise your hand if you're voting yes. And those on the dais, and keep your lights on until I'm done counting, please. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 4.
I just turned mine on.
4 out there, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. The motion passes unanimously. Mr. Pratt, will you present the next item on page 115?
I certainly will. At the May 4th, 2022 meeting of the Physical Property Committee, the committee moved and approved to recommend to the GRF Board of Directors to approve the purchase of 1 new HP DesignJet T830 large format multifunction wireless plotter printer with the optional spindle in the amount of $2,845 reserve funding. At the May 16th, 2022 Finance Committee meeting, the committee determined the money was there. I moved to approve the purchase of 1 new Hewlett-Packard DesignJet T830 large format multifunction wireless plotter printer with the optional spindle in the amount of $2,845 out of reserve funding.
I second.
Ms. Snowden? I would ask that those of you on the dais, please turn your lights off.
I have a question.
This is working just great. Again, the motion is to approve the purchase of 1 HP DesignJet T830 large format multifunction wireless plotter printer with the optional spindle in the amount of $2,845 reserve funding. Do any members wish to speak on this matter? Mr. Dodaro?
Yeah, I need to find, is this a replacement for something that's already there?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And sorely needed. Mr. Geffner.
Yeah, where are we replacing it? It doesn't say anything about where it's going.
Physical property.
Physical
Going to
properties
physical
office.
properties.
In physical property itself. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Sison?
I do think the motion...
Excuse me just a minute. Mr. Friedman, could you turn off your light? Thank you. Ms. Sison?
I do believe that the motion needs to say that this is a replacement item, otherwise why are we using reserve funding? We had the same question whenever it went through finance, and it looked exactly like this, and I thought I'd made that recommendation. So if we could say that we're not just purchasing, but replacing one.
So the motion would read, motion to approve the purchase of one new HP DesignJet T830 large format multifunction wireless plotter printer to replace the one with a optional spindle to replace the one that died in physical properties in the amount of $2,845 reserve funding. Ms. Snowden?
Oh, I was going to say I accept that.
Ms. Isom? It says Mr. Thompson over here, so I always look over there, so.
There you go.
Isom?
How about I move to approve the purchase of a replacement of one new HP
Well, I
DesignJet?
don't know that it's the same model, so that's why I didn't word it that way.
It's a newer model.
Okay, newer model. All right, got it.
I'm sure it's not, because I'm sure we've had it for many years, and I'm sure they've improved the technology, so. I see no further lights. May we have a roll call vote, please? A roll call vote?
Mrs. Prati?
Yes.
Ms. Gamble?
Yes.
Mr. Pratt?
Yes.
Ms. Snowden?
Yes.
Mr. Geffner?
Yes.
Ms. Gerber?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Hopewell?
Yes.
Mrs. Ablisser?
Yes.
Mr. Slusky?
Yes.
Mr. Dodaro?
Yes.
Ms. Levine?
Yes.
Mr. Mandeville?
Yes.
Mrs. Dalmacy?
Yes.
Mr. Melody?
Yes.
Mr. Friedman?
Yes.
Ms. Isom?
Yes.
And Mr. Massetti?
Yes.
The motion was carried unanimously.
Thank you. Ms. Gerber will present the next item on page 119.
Thank you, Madam President. This actually is a very important motion because there's a cost per unit per month in it. The waste and recycling service contract expires on July 31st, 2022. The Physical Property Department sent out a request for proposal to 6 different contractors for the waste and recycling services for a 5-year period. A mandatory bidders conference was conducted on April 11th, 2022. In attendance were representatives from Athens, formerly CalMet, Universal Waste Systems, CC&R Inc., and Republic Services. The list of bidders and their bids are as follows. Athens, formerly CalMet, per apartment per month, $10.79. Total cost per month, $71,332. Roll-off per dump and return. That means that every time that dumpster is dumped, it's $651.13. Universal Waste Systems, no bid. CR&R, no bid. Republic Services, no bid. EDCO, no bid. Waste Management, no bid. The current costs for these services are per apartment per month, $9.79. Total cost per month, $64,690. Roll-off per dump and return, $630.90. Note, pricing shall be adjusted based on the Consumer Price Index of the Bureau of Labor Statistics once a year. I move to award a contract to Athens Services to provide all services called out in Exhibit 1 for the pickup and disposal of waste and recycling materials in the community at a cost not to exceed $71,332 per month for all apartments and trust property, along with the cost of $651.13 per dump and return of the 40-yard roll-off containers at 1.8 acres, funding from operational funding, and authorize the president to sign the contract.
Thank you. Is there a second to this motion?
I'll second that.
Again, the motion is to award a contract to Athens Services to provide all services called out in Exhibit A for the pickup and disposal of waste and recycling materials in the community at a cost not to exceed $71,332 per month for all apartments and trust property, along with a cost of $651.13 per dump and return of the 40-yard roll-off containers at 1.8, funding from operational fund, and authorize the president to sign the contract. Mark, forgive me, how long is this contract for?
5 years.
5 years? Thank you. Do any board members wish to speak on this item? Ms. Parati?
Yes, Mark, it makes reference to Exhibit A, which we don't have. Are there any services that we have now that we will not be having with the new contract?
No.
Everything will be the same?
Everything, all the services are the same, and we will retain the current bins that we have in the community.
And is there something in the works as if when the state comes down with their recycling stuff,
Yes.
they're going to be on top of it?
That is inclusive.
Thank you.
Mr. Massetti?
Yes, there's a $651 per dump fee to take away the dumpsters out at the 1.8 acres. Mark, do you know about how many of those are done every month?
We've been averaging about $13,000 to $16,000 worth of waste removal a month.
So it's $13,000 a month for the dumpsters. Thank you.
Wow. Ms. Ablisser?
Yes, this is sort of part of what Ms. Parati
Can you
was...
speak?
I think it might be what Ms. Parati was asking, which is when we do the food waste requirement, is this going to be included in it?
It is.
And the other question is, how full are the dumpsters that are being dumped that is costing us that much money?
So the service maintenance monitors the 1.8 acres trash facility, and before they call the unit in for a dump, they make sure it's full. Now, what we have to make sure is it's not over weighted, because there is an extra charge for anything overweighted.
Thank you.
Ms. Gamble?
I'm not sure that I'm reading this right, and so I just want some clarification, Mark. Is this saying that every time a 40-yard roll-off container from what is currently the 1.8, that costs $651 to remove, those will still continue to be there? They will still provide that kind of
Yes.
service? Okay.
Ms. Isom?
In the actual motion, where it says 40-yard roll-off containers at 1.8 acres, and at the end, authorize the president to sign the 5-year contract. Please.
I think that's appropriate. And Ms. Snowden?
Thank you. I would like to point out for the community's information that a part of the reason that we received only one bid is that a lot of the companies out there do not want to provide the type of bins that we have in our community in our mutuals, which are easier for those of our generations to use. They wanted to give us other kinds of bins that are more convenient and cheaper for them that we cannot normally be able to use effectively all the time. So that is a part of what our fiscal property department got for us, was to maintain the best possible kind of dumpsters for us to use in our mutuals. Thank you, Physical Properties.
Mr. Massetti?
Yes, I just wanted to follow up on the $13,000 per month. That's $158,000 per year. That's $2 per apartment per month on our carrying charges. It costs us a lot of money to throw away potentially a lot of recyclable stuff. Thank you.
Ms. Isom?
Yes, actually, that was the second point I hadn't made yet. I know at one point in time, the Mutual Administration Committee had actually talked about working on finding perhaps charities that we could donate pieces to, so instead of having to pay to have the stuff taken away, perhaps someone would come and take it away for free. And so I hope that that particular idea might actually come to fruition, especially at $158,000 a year.
I thank Mr. Massetti for bringing that idea to the Mutual Administration Committee. And Ms. Gerber?
I think we should add acre after 1.8, like Ms. Isom has said on a previous motion, just to clarify, it's 1.8 acre. I read it with that word in there, but it isn't in there.
Okay. I will read the motion again to award a contract to Athens Service to provide all services called out in Exhibit A for the pickup and disposal of waste and recycling materials in the community at a cost not to exceed $71,300.32 per month for all apartments and trust property, along with a cost of $651.13 per dump and return of the 40-yard roll-off containers at 1.8 acres, funding from operational funding, and authorize the president to sign the 5-year contract. I see no further lights. We will have there is, I'm sorry, Paul. Mr. Pratt.
Mark, I have a question for you. And I heard what Paula said. I'm scratching my head. There's only one real bidder. Is it because of the type of containers we're asking for them to use?
That had a lot to do with it.
Or it's a pretty close group, these people. They all work together. Was there anything that we could do to get a second bid at least?
Well, the one thing that made it challenging is, and you can tell by the reason that they're not bidding, was the bins. Athens already has the inventory of the bins in our community.
Yes.
These other vendors would have to come up with the inventory. And as a couple of them said, that was the challenging part. It was always also challenging to incorporate those new bins with different lids. So it was very costly.
Okay, my concern is, if this is the situation, we will always have this company as our vendor. Because the other ones will always use the same excuse every time. And again, this is a pretty close group that does trash.
So the only other thing we could have done is had everybody bid to provide new bins. And then our cost would have been extremely higher from Athens.
I'm just concerned that if I know I'm going into bid and I got no competition, I give them a fair price, but I'll bump it up a little bit. I don't like being a one bid contract.
We could require to have new bins, but you can only guess what the cost is going to be.
Or these guys all know each other. They go, leave your bins.
I don't know.
I'll buy them from you used.
Yeah, I don't know that.
No, we don't, but it gets me to scratch my head. Thank you for working hard and getting this. This is not easy. I'm just concerned we're locked in forever with one company.
Mr. Geffner?
Yeah, you said this is a 5-year contract. Are there built-in increases, or we have the same price for 5 years?
No, it's as in the write-up says.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed it. I see it now. I withdraw the question.
Ms. Isom?
I was just going to say, the supply chain issues, I think, that we've had right now and in this time period also could be impacting these particular bids from these companies. So it's not just the fact that we want specific types of dumpsters, specific types of lids that come up. Hopefully, that's not an ongoing thing. I don't really want to say that there's collusion amongst these types of companies. I think that that might be a little bit of a reach, not to mention might defame some of them. But I do think that, yeah, it would have been great if we'd had more bidders, but we can't make them bid.
We did really think we were going to get more bids because they were at the bidders conference.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, if somebody's too busy, they just don't show up.
Right, which is what happened with the last two where they just didn't respond.
Correct.
Yeah. they discovered that it was too expensive and they couldn't get them here by July 31st of 2022. Thank you.
Mr. Thompson?
Yeah, I was just going to suggest that the perfect way to decide if there is collusion in the trash business is to see if Paul Pratt lasts more than 2 days before he gets a hit job against him.
May we have a roll call vote, please?
Mrs. Parati?
Yes.
Ms. Gamble? Mr. Pratt?
Heck, yeah.
Ms. Snowden?
Yes.
Mr. Geffner?
Yes.
Ms. Gerber?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Hopewell?
Yes.
Mrs. Ablisser?
Yes.
Mr. Slusky?
Yes.
Mr. Dodaro?
Yes.
Ms. Levine?
Yes.
Mr. Mandeville?
Yes.
Mrs. Dalmacy?
Yes.
Mr. Melody?
Yes.
Mr. Friedman?
Yes.
Ms. Isom?
Yes.
And Mr. Massetti?
Yes.
The motion was carried unanimously.
Thank you. Ms. Parati will present the next item on page 121.
Yes, and I'd like to speak afterwards, please. This is a final vote to amend 70-2504-2, the library fees. At the March 7th, 2022 meeting of the Recreation Committee, the committee moved to recommend the GRF Board of Directors to amend 70-2504-2, the library fees. At the March 2022 meeting of the GRF Board of Directors, the board voted to tentatively amend 70-2504-2, the library fees pending a 28 notice period to foundation members. The document draft was published in the March 31st edition of the LW Weekly. Members were welcome to submit their comments or questions to the board office on this matter. The process is recommended in accordance with Civil Code 4360. No correspondence was received during the 28-day notification to the membership period. I move to amend 70-2504-2, the library fees as presented.
I second.
Who? Ms. Snowden? Ms. Snowden seconds the motion. Again, the motion is to amend 70-2504-2, the library fees as presented. This is a final vote. Do any board members wish to speak on this item? Ms. Parati?
Yes, I just want to remind everyone that it was brought to our attention by our manager of the library, Taylor Green, that this is best practices in libraries now to be congruent with other best practices.
Thank you. Ms. Isom?
Yes, the Orange County Library System actually went to a policy like this not too long ago, and so we're actually following suit. And it does seem to encourage folks to bring back their library materials. The question I had was, why does it say the library dash fees? Why doesn't it just say library fees? Is there something I'm missing here? I've just never seen that in any other policy. And whenever she read it off, she said library fees. So could we have, is it possible to have a friendly amendment to take out the word the?
Ms. Parati?
I think when we referred, have you been to the library? We want to say, have you been to library? It's just part of the name, like the Bronx, you know.
Okay.
We don't say the Queens, we say Queens. We say the Bronx, we say the library.
I'm not from New York, so I guess I was unfamiliar with this concept.
May we have a roll call vote, please?
Mrs. Parati? Yes. Ms. Gamble? Yes. Mr. Pratt?
Yes.
Ms. Snowden?
Yes.
Mr. Geffner?
Yes.
Ms. Gerber?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Hopewell?
Yes.
Mrs. Ablisser?
Yes.
Mr. Slusky?
Yes.
Mr. Dodaro?
Yes.
Ms. Levine?
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Mandeville?
Yes.
Mrs. Dalmacy?
Yes.
Mr. Melody?
Yes.
Mr. Friedman?
Yes.
Ms. Isom?
Yes.
And Mr. Massetti?
Yes.
The motion was carried unanimously.
Thank you. Our next item will be presented by Mr. Massetti, and it is on page 125.
Thank you. I move to approve the acceptance of a donation in the amount of $19,968.44 for the from the Golden Age Foundation to sponsor the cost of 2 wheelchair lifts and associated equipment on the 2 new Golden Rain Foundation minibus shuttles.
I second.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I second.
Well, we're gonna let Mr. Pratt, you've already, Mr. Pratt seconds the motion. Again, the motion is to approve the acceptance of a donation in the amount of $19,968.44 from the Golden Age Foundation to sponsor the cost of 2 wheelchair lifts and associated equipment on 2 new Golden Ring Foundation minibus shuttles. Do any members wish to speak on this motion? Ms. Parati?
Yes, I would like to extend our heartfelt thanks to the Golden Ring Foundation on behalf of this board for what they do. The Golden Age. I'm sorry, thank you, Sandy. The Golden Age Foundation is another instance where they are truly supporting our community. So thank you, GAF.
Thank you. Mr. Slutsky?
I'm sorry.
Okay. Mr. Pratt?
Yes, I echo what Leah said. This is one of a long line of gifts from the Golden Age, and I really cherish the relationship that we all have with them and what they do for us here. And they're really behind the scenes quiet. They don't get a lot of flash, or they just do a lot of great work.
Yes, they do. Does anybody else wish to speak on this motion? I, too, would like to take the opportunity to thank the Golden Age Foundation. They do wonderful things in our community for our residents, and this is just another example of their good work, and we appreciate it, as do all of the residents. Ms. Isom?
Yes, I just wanted to say that oftentimes the Golden Age Foundation steps up when we have much-needed equipment and volunteers to actually fund some of these pieces. In this case, this is an absolutely almost mandatory for our community. So I'm so happy that they are willing to donate the funds for this. Thank you.
Thank you. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Mrs. Prati? Yes. Ms. Gamble?
Yes.
Mr. Pratt?
Yes.
Ms. Snowden?
Yes.
Mr. Geffner?
Yes.
Ms. Gerber?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Hopewell?
Yes.
Mrs. Ablisser?
Yes.
Mr. Slutsky?
Yes.
Mr. Dodaro?
Yes.
Ms. Levine?
Absolutely.
Mr. Mandeville?
Yes.
Mrs. Almacy?
Yes.
Mr. Melody?
Yes.
Mr. Friedman?
Yes.
Ms. Isom?
Yes.
And Mr. Mazzetti?
Yes.
The motion was carried unanimously.
Thank you. And our last item will be presented, it's on page 127. It will also be our last roll call vote, and coincidentally enough, the item is being presented by Ms. Gamble.
What a coincidence. There are none. But nevertheless, I'm going to begin with the second paragraph. At the March 22nd, 2022 meeting of the GRF Board of Directors, the board voted to tentatively amend 80-1937-1 parking rules pending a 28-day notice period to the GRF members. The document draft was published in the March 31st edition of the Leisure World Weekly. Members were welcome to submit their comments or questions to the board office on this matter. This process is recommended in accordance with Civil Code subsection 4360. No correspondence was received during the 28 notification to the membership period. So, therefore, I move to amend our policy 80-1937-1 parking rules as presented.
I'll second it.
Mr. Massetti?
Not Mr.
Mr.
Friedman. Not
Massetti.
Mr. Melody.
Seconds the motion. Again, the motion is to amend 80-1937-1 parking rules as presented. This is a final vote. Do any members wish to speak on this matter? Ms. Isom?
I know that there were no correspondence received during the 28-day notification period, but I do know that we had some residents come in and offer commentary during our monthly board meeting. And there was a suggestion at one point in time, and maybe perhaps it will be taken under consideration later, about oversized vehicles, perhaps being able to use that lot rather than being able to sit on trust streets. Just a suggestion. I'm willing to vote for this as is.
Mr. Massetti?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I recall there was some correspondence. However, my comment is, if we approve this today, this goes into effect tonight. Is that right?
Well, it has to be put on the website, the rule has to be updated, so
So my question is, when does this become effective, I guess? I don't know why.
I would say
I don't know why
tomorrow.
we need to wait, but
You'll have them updated tomorrow? Okay.
we can.
Uploaded?
We can send a message to Mr. Rocha.
I beg your
We
pardon?
can send a message to our security director to start enforcing this. Thank you.
Susan?
Do we have any other?
Carol.
Oh, Carol?
We didn't address ticketing. We addressed this policy goes into effect, but what does it matter if it goes into effect if you don't do anything about it? So the policy is great, but if you don't enforce it. So, and if you wanted to start enforcing it, you would have to give them a little notice to get their cars out of there and to do that kind of stuff. It wouldn't be fair to start ticketing tonight. Somebody may be on vacation and just have their car parked there and not come back till tomorrow. So I don't know that they've had any notice for the Clubhouse 1 parking lot.
Is there signage up?
No.
Well, I don't think it could go into effect before the signage is up, could it? I would not support that. Ms. Ablisser?
That's exactly the question. That's exactly the question I was asking. I think we can't do anything till the signage is up.
So, Mark, do you have an estimate as to how long it will take to get signage up?
I will look into that.
Okay. Would you please let me know so we can put security on alert and the community on the alert?
I will do.
Thank you. Mr. Geffner?
Yeah, and you could always, for the first 30 days that it does take effect, give out, warning tickets or something that, notice of this, starting this date, once we know what the date is.
Right.
The tickets will actually be fines, but give them a complimentary 30 days of warnings first.
Ms. Isom?
According to 7.1.2, it actually says those parked in any no parking zone can, essentially, you're subject to immediate towing. But until we show that it's a no parking zone or no parking area, that doesn't really apply. It does say any vehicle issued a community rules violation notice, a ticket, shall be subject to towing 72 hours after the citation's been posted under 7.2. So I agree with Sandy, if we were starting to issue at least warning citations, no one could say later that they were not warned that this was going to be in effect as of X date, after they actually put the signs up and post them. But at some point in time, some of those cars that have been there a long time will likely need to be towed, but we have to follow not just the law, but also, obviously, some of the versions of our policy here as well.
I've made a note to notify security and to give warning notices. Mr. Massetti?
Yeah, so this policy previously said in 5.1.2, parking is prohibited between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. in the spaces on the west side of Clubhouse 1, which would be Burning Tree. I walk by there every night. I don't recall seeing a sign that says that. But there's another one that 5.1.4 says no RVs are allowed to park overnight near Clubhouse 1 in the lot across from the clubhouse, blah, blah, blah. Do we have a sign that says no RVs parking here? My point is, do we need a sign for every prohibition? If
I don't know if there's signage about the RV or not, but Mark will find out.
But there is signage on Burning Tree.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ablisser?
So if it's crossed out, does it mean we're not doing it? It's hard to understand okay, so 5.1.4 is marked out. So that means it's not going to be in the new policy. And then I think that on the actual amendment, I'd like to offer a friendly amendment as presented once signage is posted.
You want about what sign?
That the motion that we're going to vote on is that we want to amend the policy as presented as soon as signage is posted, because there's nothing here that says when we're going to enact it.
Okay, we'll consider that. Let me have
Or other
everybody else
wording,
speak.
just as long as there's something about when it's going to take effect.
Ms. Domacy?
Need to reinstate the panel we had before you give anybody a ticket, because under Davis Sterling, they have to be able to argue their ticket. So you need to reinstate your panel. Yeah, the PRV panel.
Yeah. Mr. Thompson?
Yes, I would disagree with the statement to not enforce this or to include language indicating that until posted, because I think that sets a very bad precedent. There's no rules, there's nothing in any signage that says that you cannot bring an aircraft into Leisure World, but that is actually in our rules. And, I've written most of them, and it compares to my book in terms of the actual amount of things that are prohibited in here. So I think that's a very bad precedent.
Thank you. Ms. Isom?
Last point is going to address Mrs. Ablusser's point on 5.1.4. The reason why we crossed that out initially when I had been on SPT in the past was because we were prohibiting all vehicles. So it was inclusive of RVs. We didn't call them out by themselves anymore because they weren't that special. They were just a vehicle that didn't need to be in the lot between those hours.
Thank you. Ms. Ablusser, given Mr. Thompson's remarks, would you like to still consider?
Is there anything that we can say as presented effective today? Is that what we're saying, actually, that's effective tomorrow? Is that what we're saying if we vote for this? I don't mind voting on it. I just want to be clear that I am voting on this as effective now upon voting.
It would be effective as soon as it's uploaded to the, but we will be advising that we will not be giving tickets until the signage is up, and we have reinstated the panel to review tickets.
I understand. I just think that the motion is incomplete. I think that the motion is incomplete, that we need some word as presented upon being affected, or, I don't know. I'll vote for it. I just don't think it makes complete sense to someone.
We don't do that with any other rules, so that we amend or so.
No, I understand.
Okay.
I'm just saying that, not that I ever parked in Clubhouse 1. Okay, thank you for listening.
I see no more lights. May we have a roll call vote?
Mrs. Prouty?
No.
Ms. Gamble?
No.
Mr. Pratt?
He left.
Ms. Snowden?
Yes.
Mr. Geffner?
Yes.
Ms. Gerber?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Hopewell?
Yes.
Mrs. Ablusser?
Yes.
Mr. Slesky?
No.
Mr. Dodaro?
Yes.
Ms. Levine?
Yes.
Mr. Mandeville?
Yes.
Mrs. Domacy?
Yes.
Mr. Melody?
Left.
Mr. Friedman?
Yes.
Ms. Isom?
Yes.
And Mr. Massetti?
And yes.
The motion passed with 3 no votes.
With the directors present, because Mr. Pratt is not present. That was our last item. Do any board members have any further comments? Ms. Snowden?
I would personally like to thank you for your service this year as president / and everything else person.
Thank you. It truly has been a pleasure. Ms. Ablusser, your light's on?
Yes, I was just going to say what Ms. Snowden said. I've extremely appreciated your service to the community and to our board, and that you operated in a manner above and beyond, I think, your initial requirement. So I want to give you a round of applause.
Oh, thank you. Well, thank you very much. I do appreciate the kind words, but I've told you all before, I didn't do it alone. I had 17 other directors that were very, very supportive. And frankly, more important than even the GRF directors was the management team of Mark Weaver, Carolyn Miller, Leanne Dillman, and Jody Hopkins. I could not have done this without this team. They're remarkable, and I would like to give them a round of applause. And we still have days to go before our new director, executive director, is on campus, and we anxiously await the arrival of Jessica Sedgwick on June 22nd. Okay, Ms. Levine?
Well, not only do I want to thank you, Susan, but I'd want to thank this entire board for all their commitment for this year, as well as our administrative team.
Ms. Eisen?
I just wanted to say, now that I'm rolling off the board to go to my mutual board, that I very much appreciate the opportunity to work with all of you. I consider it an honor to serve under you, Susan, and I'm very happy with all of the accomplishments that we have made, especially in the last 3 years while I've been on the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I conclude the meeting, I would like to, for those of the directors that are going to be returning, and for Recreation, who sets up the dais, it would be really helpful to the next president if you would sit in your assigned seats. I have Miss Eisen and Mr. Thompson mixed up. I have Mr. Massetti sitting in Mr. Ankony's seat. So it has been a challenge today. This has actually been the hardest thing of this past year. Okay, the next regularly scheduled open meeting of the GRF Board of Directors is on July 22nd, 2022 at 10 a.m. in Clubhouse 4. But prior to that, we have the following meetings. June 7th will be the ballot counting and the all-important drawing for the $50 raffle tickets, Ralph gift cards. July 14th, we have the annual meeting and election of officers. And that's actually going to be my favorite meeting. And June 17th will be the committee ratification meeting. So please join us in June, and then a regularly scheduled meeting in July. Thank you all very much. This meeting is adjourned. Phil, could I talk to you?